How's it going, all? Triple G here. Today's project is the continuation of the install of security bars on all of the windows of the house. Previously did a video on the John Sterling safety security bars, and they're okay for the cost, especially. I used those on a couple of the smaller windows in the house that I wasn't really that concerned about, but could potentially offer a method of entrance. For the rest of the house, we decided to go with the Mr. Goodbar security bar system. This is a Canadian company. It's a family company, which I really like. You call up and talk to them when you're talking to one of the owners, which is that's really a terrific thing in my book. I like that a lot. And today, they arrived yesterday, just about exactly when they said they would. Took about 5-6 day trip from Canada to get here. And today we are doing the install. So this is what they look like when they come out of the box. The only thing that I've done to them so far is to remove 4 adjustment screws from each of the adjustment slots, top and bottom. They come with those installed to keep them from flopping around. So I've taken those out, and then we are going to continue with the install. This is one that I have already installed. I know it's kind of backlit here, but that's the only way that I can really get this shot. Kind of another view of it. They're quite solid, good heavy gauge metal. Each one of these grates this way is probably about 12 pounds, each one of these, which is a good amount of steel. One of their features that they're extremely proud of on these window guards is in each of the lateral pieces of tubular steel there is a, I guess you would call it thick wire or small size steel dowel inside of each one of these. So if you tried to cut it with a hacksaw, which it wouldn't take long to get through one of these with a hacksaw, but if you try to do with one of these, that steel dowel on the inside of it is just going to roll as you're cutting with your hacksaw, and that's going to prevent you from getting through it, or at least it would take a whole lot longer to get through it with that. I don't know what it would take with like a powered sawzall or something, but you know, if a thief's going to be that ambitious, then they're getting into your house. That's all there is to it. So these are definitely, this is about the best I've seen on the market. I did a lot of research on these for a long time. And as far as ones that install on the inside, I didn't want ones that installed on the outside. Just because of the way it makes it look, and also the more difficult installation of the emergency egress systems. So wanted one of the interior ones that I could put in myself, and for the entire house full of these, putting in 7 of them, it's taking me better part of an afternoon. I'm kind of taking my time, you know, learning as I go along. Screw up once or twice in the first try or two. Learn, move on, do it better each time. So, let us move on to the installation. Okay, so I've made a mark here on the left side of the window, which is going to be the hinge side at 6 3/8 high, which is where I've determined is probably about the best location I can have to offer a small enough spot that would make it incredibly difficult for somebody to get in, and tall enough so that it'll close up some of the gap at the top as well. So first off, just make a mark on the inside of my sill. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the hinge side of the adjustment, so that I can begin to make my marks in the wall of where I'm going to drill my holes for my screws to go in. One thing you got to be really careful of is play with it and dry fit it a whole lot before you start putting it in. Because my first couple I had to put them in and take them out a couple of times, just because of the way that they have to fit for my windows, because I've got some molding on the inside here. The molding here makes it a little bit difficult to put it in the way that they suggest you put it in, so I'm kind of putting it in slightly different. I'm putting it in with the L shape kind of facing me. They recommend you put it in that way, but that really didn't work for me because it didn't give me enough clearance to open it up. So this is the way I'm doing it. So my next step is going to be just hold it up here and make my marks where my screw holes are going to be. Okay, so I've made my marks, and now I'm going to drill about inch and a quarter deep with a 5/32 bit to get my pilot holes in there for my mounting screws. I really like using the brad point bits for this kind of work because they don't walk. They stay exactly where you put them. This with one hand, not real easy. Okay, so we got this guy fit in here. We've got our screws set but not completely driven yet. Everything looks good. All the alignment looks good on there. They give you the proper sized Robertson bits. That's the square bits you see here. There's a double-sided one. I think it's a number 2 and a number 3. That comes in the whole kit along with the screws. Something to be aware of, the smaller size bit will actually drive the larger size screws, but you will probably screw it up after driving 2 or 3 of them. Don't ask me how I came up with that conclusion, but trust me, you can. So, use the larger bit for the larger one, the smaller one for the smaller one, and all will be cool. Go slow, one at a time. Make sure they're landing exactly where you want it to land as you go. Yep, trying to do this one-handed is not easy. Okay, so all 4 of them are driven home. The hinge side is now solidly in the windowsill. Okay, so after you get your hinged side of the mounting brackets on, then the rest of the assembly just slides onto those hinged bits, and we can move on to mounting the other side. If you see right here, when it's shipped, there's a plastic plug right in here that holds the locking side on. I should also mention that these come in 3 different styles. This is the quick escape hinged type. You can also get the type that completely removes out of your window when you want to take them out, and then you put them back in and it just secures with a padlock. Or you can get the type that is permanently mounted. You put it in and it never moves again. I really didn't see the point in that because you want to be able to get into the windows and clean them occasionally. It'd be a little tough for the bars there all the time, and paint and all that. Also, you want to have the quick egress in case of an emergency for all of them as well. And also the hinged ones were a little bit less expensive than the removable type, so since I'm a cheapskate, that factored into my decision as well. So I got the hinged type for all of them. You're going to have to make up your own mind. But that's what worked for me. So, after we get the one side mounted, then look at our other side. Lift it up until it mates solidly all the way up and down on the other side of the window. Then I'm going to make a mark right down here on the bottom, and that's where I will hold the bracket while I make my marks for my screw holes. Okay, so I've got my mark where I'm going to hold the bracket while I mark the screw holes. I'm going to remove the plastic shipping plug from that, from there. Pull the bracket off. Swing open the bars, and then I'm going to hold this right where my marks are, and then I will mark where my screw holes go. Okay, so I've marked where my screw holes go with my pencil on the inside of the bracket. One thing you want to make certain of when you are lining this up is make sure that you've got it oriented the right way. You can put this in a couple of different ways. It's got to come so that the your security tab there that your lock or your quick release bolt or whatever goes through is facing out towards the room. If you try and mark your holes with it facing in any direction, then your holes will end up in the wrong spot. Don't ask me how I know this. This is the 6th one of these that I've done. I've got one more to do, so I'm pretty much an expert at it by now. Alright, let's drill our holes. Okay, our holes are drilled, so now let's mount this sucker. One thing that I have been doing that I supplied, that was not supplied with the kit, is I'm putting a couple of 1/4 inch flat washers behind the right guardrail, behind each one of the screws that I put in, because it seems to be just enough to get it away from my molding so that they open and close correctly as I put them in there. Otherwise, if I didn't, the first couple that I tried mounting without these washers on here, it didn't want to open and close very well. So I'm just doing the top one here. Got my screw, guardrail, washers, windowsill. I'm just going to screw those in there and just get them placed for now, not completely driven in. Okay, so I've got my 4 mounting screws from the right hand rail driven in a few threads. Everything seems to be lining up okay. I've got my 2 1/4 inch flat washers behind on each one to make up the difference between the sill and around the molding where the bar system has got to close on it and latch onto this tab here. So now I'm going to drive them all home. Looks good. This is not easy to do left-handed. Thing about these Robertson drive bits, you got to make sure that you are completely square to them when you're driving them, especially when you're putting a lot of torque on them, because they will slip out and they will destroy themselves pretty easily. But there we go. That's in there nice and solid. So now the moment of truth. Does it line up and close? Now, we don't have our adjustment screws in here yet. The whole thing is just kind of free floating on the rails right now. So it's not quite exactly how it's going to be yet, but... And she is not wanting to close here. What's the problem? Okay, I'm going to try and drive those screws in a little bit harder, but I can't have my hand on the camera while I do it, so be right back. Okay, so a modification I ended up making on this system, because I guess the tolerances were just a little too tight or something, is I had to replace these Robertson Drive panhead screws with some countersink 3-inch deck screws. The heads on these were just a little bit too big, and they were not allowing the system to close properly on there. So put the countersink in there, a little bit lower profile, and I'm not sure whether this tab got welded a little bit more closer to the edge than they usually do or what. But so after you get the right side rail mounted, then close the system up. It all closed up like that. It's a quite tight fit. It's not a nice, smooth, quiet operation. It fits very snugly in there, and it needs a little bit of encouragement. So after that is in, now it is time to center up the bars in between the side rails. Back up a little bit so I can get a shot on that, so that you've got kind of an equal gap between both sides. This window here that I've got going on is quite tight to what this system can do. There's actually like, I don't know, 8 or 10 inches of adjustment in there. When you go onto the website, it shows you what size you will need for the size of your window, and if you call them up on the phone, they will help you out as well that way. But this one doesn't require a whole lot of centering on it, because it's pretty tight as it is. I just want it to kind of look the same as the other one. Very good, just like yay. And then all that is left to do is to install the set screws into the adjustment bars so that it will stay right where it is. Test it again. Well, I'm going to put 4 of them in, 1 in each slot. Test it, make sure it's all good, and as long as it's all good, then I'll put the other 4 in. Be right back. Be careful how much torque you're putting these guys on. It's just going into sheet metal, so you could strip it out fairly easily. Okay, there we are. After a little bit of pushing and pulling and banging and swearing, they are in. These are not a real hard install, but be prepared to use a little bit of ingenuity while you're putting them in, because it's not a breeze, like anything it is. And every window and every application is going to have its own set of personality quirks that you're going to have to adapt to and use your ingenuity and experience to make happen. Show you right here, this is where your locking mechanism will go, either a padlock or else a quick release mechanism of some sort. They do sell a quick release mechanism that is done by a foot pedal down here. Unfortunately, my windows are only about 16 inches off the floor, so if I put that system in, then whoever was trying to break into the house could just reach in and operate the quick release, and that kind of defeats the purpose of the whole thing. So I'm going to have to come up with a cable release remote of some sort to make that happen and make for safe, easy egress. So it's still going to require a little bit of playing with to get it to operate smoothly. I think I'm going to have to machine down the heads of these screws and the edge of the thing a little bit with a Dremel, just to get a little bit more clearance from the steel in there, because it's not an extremely easy open yet. But figure, hey, if it's a little bit challenging for me to open when I know how it works and I put it in, then maybe it's going to be really, really hard for somebody who is trying to get in my house, who's pressed for time and nervous and doesn't exactly know what they're doing and strung out on God knows what and all that. So hopefully it will be meeting their purpose like that. Yeah, this is still going to require a little bit of adjustment. So, my final review on these, probably 8.5 out of 10. They're not cheap for 7 windows. I think I paid about $1,600 for them, including shipping from the Great White North. But that's what their purpose is to be secure and allow us to sleep a little better at night and be able to relax a little bit more when we're out away from the house on vacation or on trips. So it is what it is. Make your own decisions. Thank you much. Triple G out.